I'm Veronica Dudo. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, one step closer. Ukraine agrees to a peace plan proposed by the U.S., but it's not time to celebrate yet. Apostolic visit as Pope Leo prepares to head to Turkey. EWTN News is in Istanbul with a preview of his trip. Plus, first of its kind.
That's a blessing that cannot be overlooked or overstated,
What makes a new seminary in the U.S. so unique? These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the feast day of St. Catherine of Alexandria. Our top story tonight, President Donald Trump reports tremendous progress in his push for peace. He says the U.S. plan to end the war in Ukraine has been fine-tuned and there are only a few remaining points of disagreement. The president is sending envoys to meet with both sides and says he will only meet with the Ukrainian and Russian leaders when the deal is done.
We're going to get there. 25,000 soldiers, Ukraine, Russia. In the last month, 25,000 soldiers have died. So I think we're getting very close to a deal. We'll find out.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky earlier said a lot of work remains.
And I'm ready to meet with President Trump. And there are sensitive points to discuss. We have them still.
And he says it will be challenging to finalize a deal with Russia.
As long as Russia has not taken real steps toward demobilization, real steps to shut down its war machine, we do not have the right to stop working to support Ukraine.
Overnight, Russian strikes targeted the capital city of Kyiv, killing more than a half dozen people. Ukraine struck back. Video shows some of the damage left behind in Russia.
Ukraine continues to hold the line. They continue to mount a fearless defense of their country. And they deserve not just our respect, but our help and our support.
The British Prime Minister likes that the U.S. peace plan includes security guarantees, but he questions other parts of the proposal.
I welcome the continued efforts of the United States to end the war and stop the killing. The initial draft of the 28-point plan included points that were not acceptable.
Russia's foreign minister said they were waiting to receive an official version of the U.S. peace plan. A Democratic lawmaker says the plan sounds like it was engineered by the Russians.
I mean, any deal that depends on Putin's promises is not a deal at all. Any deal that rewards war criminal Putin for his criminal war is not a deal.
Joining us for more on Ukraine is retired Brigadier General Mark Kimmett, a former Assistant Secretary of State for Political Military Affairs. Thanks so much for joining us.
Sure.
So there are reports that Ukraine agreed to the core elements of the peace deal. What more is known?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to understand that we've gone from the 28-point peace plan that was agreed to in principle by the Russians. Now we've run it by the Ukrainians, and they've refined it down to 18 points. This isn't over. Even though President Zelensky will come to Washington, D.C. next week, it is without a doubt that that version that he has agreed to will now have to be brought back to the Russians to look at. This reminds me, I'm old enough to remember the shuttle diplomacy of Henry Kissinger in 1974 as he went back and forth between Egypt and Israel in a series of shuttle diplomacy trips for the purposes of finally achieving a peace between Israel and Egypt.
Now, talking about that shuttle diplomacy, when we look back over this deal, what have been the fundamental starting positions and non-negotiable demands of both Russia and Ukraine, and where have they differed?
Yeah, it's very simple. They're both completely different. Ukraine said the Russians out, Ukraine into NATO, and reparations being paid to Ukraine for the damage and the destruction caused by Russia. The Russians, on the other hand, their war aims were simple. Zelensky out, Ukraine never to get into NATO, and we hold on to the lands that we have. But as you can see, those two sides are so far apart. That's why you need a third party, in this case the Americans, to try to bring them closer together.
And what do you think of that potentially being accomplished?
I'm pessimistic because the two sides are so far apart, but peace is typically achieved through negotiations. Neither side, neither Putin nor Zelensky, will get what they want, but hopefully, despite all the hand-wringing of our European allies, we can come to an agreement that is considered fair and non-threatening to the Europeans, and that stops the killing inside of Ukraine.
And if a peace plan stalls, what would that look like for Russia and Ukraine?
Well, I would describe it as a frozen conflict, which I expect it's going to end up anyways. We've seen frozen conflicts before. There's one in India and Pakistan in an area called Kashmir. Azerbaijan and Armenia had a frozen conflict for years and years. And the one that most Americans recognize is that frozen conflict between North and South Korea. Technically, South Korea and North Korea are still in a state of war. But for many, many years, 70 plus years, they have had this frozen conflict without resolution to the war aims of either side.
Retired Brigadier General Mark Kimmett, thank you so much.
Thank you.
With only 2 days to go before the papal trip to Turkey and Lebanon, both countries are making their final preparations and anticipation is growing. EWTN Vatican News journalist Magdalena Walensky-Reedy is on the ground in Istanbul and tells us what to expect from Pope Leo's first apostolic journey.
Good evening, Veronica. We are here in Istanbul today, and I can tell you that all of Turkey is really excited about the Pope's arrival on Thursday. The Holy Father is coming to this country, the land of our forefathers in the faith, and a place that has been a symbol of ethnic, cultural, and religious coexistence for 2,000 years. Following in the footsteps of his predecessor, Pope Francis, he really wanted to be here to mark the 1700th anniversary of the First Council of Nicaea, which the Catholic Church is celebrating this year. In his papal bull, the decree that opened the Jubilee of Hope, Pope Francis wrote that the Nicene Council was a milestone in the history of the Church. And just this past Sunday, on the feast of Christ the King and ahead of his apostolic trip, Pope Leo issued the apostolic letter In Unitate Fidei for the anniversary of the Council of Nicaea, hoping it can encourage the whole Church to renew her enthusiasm for the profession of faith. He added that the Council of Nicaea is still very relevant today because of its strong ecumenical message. In a world divided by so many conflicts, a united Christian community can be a sign of peace. And that sign of peace is exactly what many people here in Turkey are expecting and hoping for from the Pope's visit. Today we spoke with some of them here in Istanbul who are part of the small Catholic community in the country, no more than just 20,000 out of 85 million citizens. Let's listen to what they told us.
Przede wszystkim jest wielką radością dla nas widzieć.
There are not many of us Christians here. That's why his visit is especially strengthening for us. That he remembers us, despite this being the Holy Land, land of the apostles, there are not many of us. So the Pope's visit is a strengthening of the faith for us.
As a church, we are truly excited, and I'm sure this visit will give all of us renewed hope. In a time when the world seems to be moving in a troubling direction, our community believes that this visit to this holy land will shine as a light for all nations.
Our Holy Father, Francis, made this program. And we were expecting him maybe end of the September or first week of October. But, he was sick and then died. We are very sorry for this. And also we are happy because we have the new Pope. So we have the different kinds of feelings, sadness and happiness.
The visit here in Turkey will begin in the capital, Ankara, where Pope Leo will meet with the Turkish president and other authorities. And at the end of the day, he will fly here to us, to Istanbul. Here on Friday, he will meet bishops, priests and consecrated persons at the Catholic Cathedral of the Holy Spirit in Istanbul. Later, he will visit the nursing home of the Little Sisters of the Poor, whom we had the privilege of meeting today and who are overwhelmed with joy at the Pope's arrival. A crucial moment of the entire visit will be Nicaea, modern Iznik, where Pope Leo will take part in a special ecumenical prayer near the archaeological excavations at the ancient basilica where the Council of Nicaea is believed to have taken place exactly 1,700 years ago. There will be also meetings with leaders of other various local Christian communities, a visit to the Ahmet Pasha Mosque here in Istanbul, and a large Holy Mass on Sunday, November 30th, before he departs for Lebanon. So as you can see, we have really so many beautiful moments ahead of us. In Istanbul, Turkey, Magdalena Wolinska-Riedi for EWTN News Nightly.
When Pope Leo wraps up his trip to Turkey, he will then go to Lebanon for meetings with civil and religious leaders, including members from the Maronite community. The Maronite Church is an Eastern Catholic church based in Lebanon and in communion with Rome. It is named after Saint Maron, a 4th century hermit, and has its own liturgy and spirituality. It also has a substantial presence here in the United States, and we are happy to welcome Bishop Gregory Mansour, Eparch of the Maronite Eparchy of St. Maron of Brooklyn in New York City. Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Veronica. Very nice to meet you.
You as well. Both popes, John Paul II and Benedict XVI, visited Lebanon during their papacies, with both trips seen as milestones for the region. How are Maronite Catholics viewing this upcoming trip by Pope Leo XIV?
With lots of enthusiasm and lots of joy, and preparing themselves with a lot of. We've also done our own repentance of anything that has caused any harm to anybody. That's part of Patriarch Ra'i. He asked us to go deep within ourselves to improve in our Christian life, so that we can really be a witness, and we can witness to the joy of the Holy Father coming to Lebanon.
Now, on Sunday, Pope Leo issued an apostolic letter ahead of his trip focused on the Nicene Creed, which he called the foundation for dialogue that, quote, has led us to recognize the members of other churches and ecclesial communities as our brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ, and to rediscover the one universal community of Christ's disciples throughout the world. Do you think this letter will have an impact on the ongoing ecumenical efforts between the Catholic and Orthodox churches?
For sure. I read it carefully, and it is profound. It's beautiful. I wrote a little speech about Nicaea a few months ago, but mine pales next to the Pope's. And what I loved about the Pope's, he said, it's very clear that this issue of faith is that not a man became close to God, as Arius said, but God became man and dwelt among us. And the difference in that is very, very essential to our faith. And all Christians, evangelical, Catholic, and Orthodox, believe that. So I think Pope Leo has really put out a beautiful document. I hope people will read it. And I think it will be a great help for ecumenism.
Pope Leo will also meet with members of other faiths as well. What is the current relationship between the Maronite Catholic Church and Islam?
It's fairly good. You know, in Lebanon, there are Christian holidays and Muslim holidays, and Lebanon is the only country of the world that has a Muslim Christian holiday, and that is the Annunciation, March the 25th. And so there are good relationships. But there's something, Veronica, that some people may be missing, and that is Pope Leo went very deep before his visit. He studied Nicholas of Cusa, who was a great dialoguer with Islam and dialoguer with Eastern Christianity. And 1,000 years after Augustine, he was the voice of Augustine in the Middle Ages. So Pope Leo really, really gets what it is that it is to dialogue with Islam and dialogue with Eastern Christians. So this trip, I think, will be extraordinary, and we're very much looking forward to it.
Bishop Mansour, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now to Nigeria, where the president has announced that 24 schoolgirls abducted from Kebbi have been rescued. It happened on November 17th. Armed gunmen struck the school at dawn right after a group of soldiers had left the area. No other details about the rescue have been released. In the last week, more kidnappings have taken place. 253 students and 12 teachers taken from St. Mary's School in Nigeria are still missing. 50 students did manage to escape and have returned to their families. No one has claimed responsibility for the abductions. Authorities say they are working to rescue the students and staff. Sister Mary Barron is the Superior General of the Missionary Sisters of Our Lady of Apostles, which manages the schools. First, can you tell us what happened? How were these children and staff kidnapped?
Thank you, Veronica. It was Friday morning, early, Thursday night, Friday morning, and around 1 a.m. Now, you have to imagine this is a boarding school for primary and secondary children, and around 1 a.m. Armed bandits arrived at the compound, and as is the case in these attacks, they come in droves, huge numbers on motorcycles, armed. And so they methodically went from dormitory to dormitory, rounding up the children, asking where are the adults, and then went to the different rooms where the adults were and gathered up as many children as they could to kidnap and take away with them.
What do you know about the children who escaped?
Yes, thankfully, the original numbers that were reported were the children that were missing, that were not accounted for on Friday. We had hoped and thought that some of the children had escaped in the sense that, and the secondary school children, that they had tried to jump over the walls from the school and run away into the bush. When we gave the numbers, they hadn't returned to their parents, but gradually by Saturday evening, they had found their way home. And so those 50 were those who managed to escape the compound while the kidnapping was happening.
Are you aware of any rescue operations?
My only knowledge really comes from the bishop and from what I read from the president of the country, President Tinubu, is saying that all efforts are happening. Bishop Bullis is asking for more efforts and is not, I think, happy with what has happened to date. I think our view is that if we really wanted to find 265 people who've been kidnapped, we could find them. The bishops of Nigeria have come out with a strong statement today, deploring all of the violence, but noting that, and let me just read it exactly as it says, so I'm not misquoting them, but that it's a matter of grave concern that several predominantly Christian communities, particularly in the northern and middle belt regions of the country, have come under repeated and brutal attacks, resulting in heavy casualties and the tragic loss of many Christian lives. In some instances, there have been disturbing reports of delayed or withheld security responses, given the impression of possible collusion or a lack of will to act. So I think they're saying quite strongly what they believe.
Sister Mary T. Barron, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly, including Under Investigation, why the Pentagon is singling out a Democratic lawmaker. And a new kind of seminary is taking shape in Arizona. What sets it apart? Death threats and infighting have caused a number of House Republicans to contemplate whether they want to stay in Congress or leave early. The latest is Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She wrote a scathing resignation that's rattled her colleagues. She brought up issues like censures, violent threats, and so-called loyalty tests to President Trump. She also spoke about the lack of progress in Congress since July. House members have spent only a handful of days in Washington, D.C. 41 members of Congress have already announced they plan to call it quits at the end of their term. More could follow. So with a razor-thin majority in the House, 219 to 213, a few defections could derail everything for House Speaker Mike Johnson, making legislating very difficult. The FBI is now opening an inquiry into the 6 Democrats who appeared in a video that urged service members to defy illegal orders. In addition, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth ordered a Pentagon investigation into one of the 6 Arizona Arizona Democratic Senator Mark Kelly for serious allegation of misconduct. In the video, the lawmakers said that threats to our Constitution are coming from right here at home. President Trump called the lawmakers' actions seditious and treason. Kelly responded during a recent interview stating, "I spent 25 years in the United States Navy. Let me start by saying I never questioned any order, and you're required to follow all legal orders. You're also required not to follow illegal ones." He went on to say, "I think it's important for people to know that they need to be able to stand up and speak out." The University of Mary, a Catholic institution based in North Dakota, is partnering with the Diocese of Phoenix to develop Arizona's only Catholic seminary. Now, men attending the Nazareth Seminary in Phoenix are able to take satellite classes on the campus of Arizona State University. EWTN News Nightly correspondent Eric Rosales traveled to Arizona and has more about this unique arrangement.
For more than 50 years, the Diocese of Phoenix has never had a seminary of its own, but now it does. I'm actually standing in one of 4 homes that are changing the lives of men. The Diocese of Phoenix is also changing the way it's forming priests.
I know a lot of people have aspirations of leaving their state or hometown. I never did. So being here in Phoenix, in Arizona, has been really great for me. You're close to home and just close to where you grew up and where you put down your roots.
Well, Arizona seminarians were previously educated out of state. The Nazareth Seminary now allows them to be closer to home and gain a deeper connection with the diocese and the people they will serve.
I get to be close to my family. I get to know the actual priests and people here, with the people that, God willing, I'll be serving. That's a blessing that cannot be overlooked or overstated.
What's this area here, Bobby?
So this is just kind of a common room for all of us where we can hang out and spend time in fraternity and community, spend a lot of time together.
Each seminary home houses only a few men, much smaller than traditional seminaries. This gives those studying and living together a model which prioritizes parochial interaction based on the Holy Family. Father Paul Sullivan describes the setup.
Small groups and accountability and intentional living allows for so much growth.
Father Sullivan hopes the structure will provide a deeper bond between the men as well as their bishops and other priests, and each house is connected with a parish.
They get to know the people, but they see the priests working. And so seminary that's close to a parish allows for the seminarian to discern, to see what he's discerning.
Besides being active participants in the Catholic community, the seminarians interact with other students on the ASU campus, many of whom are not Catholic.
Our seminarians are sitting in classrooms with lay students, with other lay students, young women, young men, who are not necessarily pursuing the religious life, but I think there's a back and forth exchange that happens.
By spring of 2026, 9 seminarians will graduate from the program with undergraduate degrees in philosophy and Catholic studies. The first ordination class, who started the program at Nazareth Seminary, will take place in 2029. Once ordained, the priests will stay in the Phoenix Diocese and already know the community they will serve. In Phoenix, Arizona, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
A message of compassion to those most in need. The one-time vehicle of the late Pope Francis has been transformed into a mobile health clinic aimed at delivering care to the children of Gaza. The Catholic charity Caritas presented the Pope Mobile in Bethlehem, where the late Pope visited in 2014. The refurbished vehicle carries diagnostic tools, treatment supplies, vaccines, and refrigeration for critical medicines. It will be staffed by qualified healthcare professionals. It's unclear if the vehicle will receive authorization from Israel to travel to Gaza. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, poultry pardon. See this year's White House turkeys pardoned by the president. Welcome back. In the annual Thanksgiving tradition, President Trump pardons the White House turkeys Gobble and Waddle to spare them from the Thanksgiving table.
Gobble, I just want to tell you this very important. You are hereby unconditionally pardoned.
The pair stayed at the Willard Hotel last night and could be seen wandering around the briefing room before the pardoning. Legend has it that President Lincoln's son asked to spare a turkey at Thanksgiving, leading to the annual turkey pardon tradition. We thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, YouTube, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Veronica Dudo. Good night and God bless.